Hello, everybody. We are live once again. It's Mark and Ann. How are you doing today, Ann?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Doing all right. We've both been a little under the weather, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. I'm so glad
Yeah,
to feel better.
but we are feeling better. And we're back, right?
Yay.
Well, it's another exciting episode. Who do we have joining us tonight?
Yeah, tonight's a good one. Tonight we have Sherri Goss. Sherri
Mhm.
is president of Rosenberg Financial Group.
Mhm.
Sherri got her BS from the University of Idaho, and she has a master's of education from Boston University. She has been working in financial since 1999.
Mm.
And I'm telling you, I've known Sherri for years. She has helped me out by doing a family night at the nursing home years ago for me,
Mm.
and just a wealth of information. So I'm really excited to get her on, and she can tell you a little bit more about herself and what they do.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to this as well. So let's count this down and get the show going.
Great.
Sherri Goss, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much.
And I have to open this up and just say what we all have heard. It's a small world sometimes, right? So let's real quickly, years back, I actually knew Sherri and her husband, Randy. We went to the same church. We lived down the street from each other. And fast forward 20 something years later, meet Ann. Me and Ann meet through a colleague. We start talking, and Ann wants to, do the podcast. Next thing I know, we're joining forces. And it's been a godsend to have Ann come into my life. And she brings up Sherri Goss and doing a show with her. And I'm like, Goss and Randy. And I said, there's no way that's the same Sherri and Randy Goss. And it is. So it's awesome to reconnect with you guys this way. So anyway, let's kind of move things forward. And so Sherri, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I took over Rosenberg Financial Group 3 years ago, and we're getting ready to change the name to Lifespan Wealth Management, just in case anybody sees that and they wonder, did something go wrong? Nothing's going wrong. Everything is going right. So as financial advisors, our team helps actively manage money for our clients. We do financial planning. And the biggest thing that we do are free consultations. So I have people coming to me every week saying, hey, am I going to be okay in retirement? And I want to talk about that a little more in a little bit. But that's my most favorite thing that I do is meeting people and working through the numbers with them and helping them figure out what they need to do so that they can be successful and retire and have peace. So you can listen, you can go to our website, retirerelax.com, click on the special reports tab, and you can see a number of free publications. We have some great stuff out there. We do a radio show on Saturday morning on AM 940. We record those shows, and they're all on the website. And you can also get things like the Wall Street Journal for free. So please check out retirerelax.com. It's a great website.
Yeah, and the radio show is really interesting. I've listened in a couple of times, and I'll tell you, Mark, it's funny to listen because Sherri, Randy's on the radio show with her, and so they're a lot like you and I, and it's just conversation back and forth, and it's we're live and things happen when you're live that you can't change. We had a little bit of that on another show. My screen went black just in the middle of everything. So things happen. And so listening in on the radio show, it's really great information. It's a lot to follow, but it's really good. And I really enjoy it and listening in on that. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, and we'll throw that up again at the end to remind everybody what the station is and when that is. So let's talk a little bit, Sherri, and let's talk about, I know you're going to give me my visual cues. So let's share with everybody, if you would, just tell them a little bit about I know you manage money, but tell them a little bit more about what that means and what you guys do.
So we manage portfolios actively, which is very unique for Middle Georgia. And what this means, I'll give you an example. If everybody remembers back to 2007, 2008, 2009, we had a massive, massive recession caused by the housing market downturn. So we started getting out of the market in end of 2007. We were out of the market for an entire year before we got back in, and the market was down 50%. And here's big deal. So the majority of our clients are retirement age, and they are having to take distributions to live on. And if you are taking distributions out of an IRA account that you're having to live on, and the market drops 50% while you're taking money out, it is a total disaster.
Yeah.
And avoided that. And so we got out of the market. We were out for most of 2008. We got back in the middle of 2009, and our clients were back to even by the end of 2009 because we got out early. And that's the difference between us. Instead of riding the market up and down, our clients don't do that. They don't want that.
So what do you do with the revenue of the cash that's pulled out of the market? Where does it park?
That time around, everything was down so bad that we weren't even going into bonds. I mean, it was volatile. We were sitting in cash that was paying very little.
Yeah.
But getting a 50% loss was huge. We got out when 2 years ago, when the Fed started pulling interest rates up, the market started going down. And so we stopped out of the market. So our clients weren't down 25% with the market at that point either. So that's the biggest thing that we do is actively manage portfolios, picking individual stocks, ETFs, bond funds, and making sure that we're in the right mix for a client based on where they are in their retirement years. Now, it may not be appropriate for a young person. So we're talking about strategies for those people in a different way. But most of our clients are either getting ready to retire or they are retired. And this money has to last them for the rest of their lives. And there's
Well, I don't want to get too far off in the weeds here, but I know I'm preaching to the choir with you, but when things rallied after the crash and then we had the COVID stuff, some of the strangest things happened with the market. You had some things that did not make sense. You had the Reddit community. You had online gamers that actually, messed up the short of GameStop. GameStop is a brick and mortar, and these regular people hijacked the shorts and they inflated the GameStop price to a crazy level, and so many people made fortunes off of that hype. And it was the same thing with other companies that were just manipulated and all. And then you get into the digital currencies and the stuff that went nuts. People made fortunes by happening to get in early on Shiba Inu and all these other things. But in other words, you guys have seen a lot, and that's kind of the highlight or the importance of having a firm like yourself that's able to be proactive and, like you're saying, not just ride the market, because sometimes things don't recover. But I just wanted to throw that in there when you were sharing that it's been a crazy 15 years.
Yeah. Off and on crazy.
Yeah. So we talked about the radio show. I want to flip that up again, Mark, at the end, just so we can remind everybody, if you could do that one at the end for us again.
Sure. Yep.
And let's talk a little bit more about, I don't know what question you're throwing up next, but I've got one I just want to throw out there that we're going to talk about. So yeah, we can talk about this, the critical piece of advice to give a pre-retiree, with what we were just talking about. How is it that this was one of the other ones, and Mark, I'm sorry, I know I'm getting you out of order. Right. But I really, with what you were saying about the market and what you guys do for your clients, I wanted to talk a little bit more about how can someone be certain that they're ready to retire? How do you know that?
It's so important. So when people call and make an appointment with me, we send them a couple of pieces of paper and ask them to fill out income, assets, debt, expenses. I want to know everything about their finances so that I can sit down with them and we can crunch the numbers and determine, based on what they're saving, are they going to be able to retire in 10 years, 5 years, 15 years? And it's interesting that some of the people that come to me that are so concerned and worried about can they afford to retire are more prepared than anybody on the planet. Those people do everything right, but they just want someone else to look at it. And then I have people coming to me that want to retire in 3 years, and they've taken on so much debt. I had a case just recently. Husband and wife took on $60,000 of their kid's student loan at over a 14% interest rate. The kid owes 50, they owe 60, and it was a 4-year degree. This is, and they can't retire. I told them they want to retire in 2 years. I said, there's no way you can, you've got to pay this debt off. You can't afford it. So there's people that want to and can't. There's people that want to, and yes, they can. And that's mostly what we see. But I want to do a really thorough job of assessing the situation and making sure that I give them the appropriate advice so they can do the right thing and get to where they want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Good to know. And now I think, Mark, if you'll, backing up to just what is the best advice? What is the critical piece to talk with someone about?
So the first thing I would advise people to do that are getting ready to retire is to go to our website and download the special report, Can I Afford to Retire? And read through that, because it makes you crunch your own numbers. And if you crunch your own numbers and you want an assessment with me, our consultations are free. You can just call me, you can come see me, bring your stuff, and we'll go through it together. But here's the thing that is the biggest piece for me of this whole Can I Afford to Retire is getting real about how much you spend every month. Because here's the problem. We use credit cards and debit cards all the time, and people aren't even aware of how much they're spending. So in this special report, there's a spending tracker, and you can just lay it on the counter so that when you come home at night and have a pen laying next to it, you write down what you spent that day. And people are shocked when they actually they're spending and realize how much they're spending on eating out, gas for their cars, stuff for their kids. And and then you take that number and you look at your retirement money, and is this really going to fit? I mean, is this really going to work? So and I encourage people to do the spending tracker every January, just to kind of do a reboot of what's changed, what's going on. You need to do what you're doing, because you have to know what you're spending to know whether you can retire. You can't just base it on the investment numbers. That's a flaw. That's a big flaw.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, talk about a financial plan. What is a financial plan? What would you tell everybody that?
So we have the software to do financial plans, and what you enter into the software is everything from a person's income, assets, age, but how many years until they're going to retire, all the growth, projected growth rate of the stock market. You enter all of that in there, and then you see whether it's going to work or not. Jonathan Eisner just joined our firm a year ago, and he does financial planning. And so he has the software. He can do that for people if anybody's interested in talking to him about that. But it really needs to be reassessed once a year. You can't just do a plan and set it and forget it and think, okay, I'm good, because things change. Your expenses may have changed. Your kids' situation may have changed. They might have moved back home. I mean, your job may have changed. Everything could have changed. And so it's not something you can just do one time. And it's a good guide, but it's not going to be accurate as you get older and things change in your life. So, but anyways, a financial plan can be very helpful to point people toward what they need to do more of, saving more, paying off debt, whatever it is.
And so does that kind of go hand in hand? And Mark, I know finance is your thing too. I'm healthcare. Y'all losing me, but is the financial plan kind of go along with also the spending that you were just talking about, that you sit down and do, and kind of hand in hand?
You have to track the spending. It has to be accurate, or the plan is worthless. You have to get real with yourself. You have to be honest. And come and tell me, hey, I really want to retire. And we look at the numbers and it's like, there's no way. And then, like I said before, you have people that come in and say they're freaking out about, can I retire? And they're in the best shape ever. It's just all of our brains operate differently. Nothing is absolutely right or wrong. It's just that you've got to get real with the situation. You've got to understand exactly where you are, where you're headed, and is that where you want to be?
Yeah. I think this gets into the territory of what I want us to talk about. And the importance of talking about this is obviously being in the senior space of families find themselves facing a situation of needing to bring in-home care for their loved ones, maybe hospice, maybe they need placement into assisted living or memory care. That's where we come in and help out. And far too often we come across so many people that do not have any money. They didn't prepare at all. So that gets back to the importance and stressing the importance of younger people getting with a firm like yourself and thinking about the future. None of us have a crystal ball. We can't sit there and go, I'm going to live X number of years. I get that, but it's on you before you know it. And so my wife and I, years back when we got, when business was really good and we were able to have money in all these different pockets, and we took out a variable term life insurance policy to where that's some advice to where you've got some people that take out long-term care insurance, which we'll get to next, but also there's the variable life insurance that has a death benefit that also builds a surrender value to where if you live long enough, then you've got that surrender value to use for care or whatever. But people really need to discuss and talk about getting older. Those that are already there, that it is what it is. It's on you. And then Ann has 25 plus years in the nursing home field. So that's where a lot of people will wind up. If they don't have the money, then they go into the system and they have to, use in the Medicare and all that. But with that said, kind of what's your knowledge and experience of the trends of the long-term care insurance industry right now?
I want to go back to your life insurance comment because this is very good before I cover that one. Mm-hmm. So an example. So Randy was in the military, active duty. He had so many years to retire. We have 2 kids that were headed toward college. I had just quit my job and gone to work with Steve Rosenberg. It was not making any money. And we bought $1 million policy on Randy. And at first he wasn't quite sure, who's my husband, he wasn't quite sure it was the right thing to do. But I said, if something were to happen to you, what would I do? How would I put these kids through college? How would I pay? And so I'm a worst case scenario planner. And so I encourage people to think like that. What's the worst thing that could happen? How do I prepare for that so that I'm financially capable of getting through the storm? And so we made it through the storm. We had the 10 years worth of life insurance. It expired. I don't need it anymore. My business is fine. Randy works with me now. But just think about that. What if something happened to your family? They were no longer there and their pension was no longer there. That's my concerns is people just assume they're going to live a long life and that income coming in, and that is not how this all works.
But that was smart that you guys did that, right? Because you have that, you don't want anything to happen to your loved one. Nobody does, but life happens, and that sense of security, knowing, hey, that safety net's there. That's like if I know I plop over because I'm going through a rebuilding of another company. I don't have the wealth that I had, and you're sitting there going, "Oh, I got to rebuild it again." But I'm glad that policy is there. If I croak, then she's going to be okay, right? So a lot of people say I can't afford it. Well, how much is that phone that you carry? How much is the car you drive or the second car you drive? There's ways, right?
I agree. I totally agree. Regarding the long-term care, this is very interesting in what's happening in the long-term care insurance space. There are a lot of companies that are defaulting on policies now that people have been paying. There are companies that are not writing any more coverage. The Bass and Warner Robins, they have put that on hold for 2 years while they analyze the risk that they have taken on policies they have
wow.
Customers, the potential customers. And so I'm seeing a lot of a problem with strict, straight up long-term care insurance, but there are other solutions that are out there that I like even better. And these that are offering hybrid policies that are long-term care / life insurance or long / annuity policies. And so that's what I would do. If anybody came to me in the future for long-term care, I would do something as a hybrid so that if they never use it, the family would still have a benefit in the end and get that money back. That's go from here forward. But buying a straight up long-term care policy, and I'm just fortunate. I bought a 10-pay and paid it off, I don't know, 20 years ago, probably, because I was in the insurance business and I knew to do this. So we still have coverage, unlimited lifetime benefits for both of our lives that is already paid up. You can't get more.
Yeah. And I'll share, for anybody that comes across this is hardcore reality. And then I'll turn it back over to you, Ann. But mom and dad did things, quote unquote, right. got all their trust and asset protections, took out long-term care a long time ago. And fast forward, it's a grandfather policy. It's 170 a day, no cap. It's activating it that's the challenge, but it's still there. Point being, though, when people come to you and they say, can I afford to retire? Well, that might not be the option. It may be something happens and can I afford to take care of my loved one or myself? Because here's mom and dad. Dad's turning 94 September 1st. Mom's 93. She's been home with hospice since Jan 1st of the year. We've thought we've lost her four times or so now, but she keeps hanging in there. After mom's insurance, she has 24-hour nursing care at home. After insurance, they're coming out of pocket $10,000 a month.
Right.
And that's with a deal. That's at $20 an hour for a for real nurse. A lot of companies have to do CNAs, and you're looking at $25, $35 an hour. So that's the sobering reality of what getting older is like. And that's the importance of this show. It's the importance of what you do and try to do, is trying to scream from the mountaintop, hey, my consultations are free. Come sit down and see what you're facing if God gives you the days to keep living, because it's going to happen. The only thing that stops it is death. So with that being said, do you have anything you want to add to the long-term care, or do you want Ann to move on to kind of the next thing?
No, I think that's about it for me on that one.
Okay.
No, but I do want to say, you're right. It's free consultation. I mean, and we say this every podcast, and we're not out here making money off this podcast. We're trying to get information out to people.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a free consultation to sit down with you guys, and people shouldn't wait until they're 60. We're not talking about come and sit down when you're 60. Do this when you've got time to plan and to get your financial plan in place, and talk to somebody that can set you up, because none of us are guaranteed. We don't know. We recently, I mean, Randy and I both have recently had people that we know in our lives that we're close to that have had strokes. Now, a little bit older, will say that, but strokes don't care how old you are. They don't care. And it doesn't matter. So it's, it's reality of where people are. So,
I think it's to once again encourage people to reach out to you, Sherri, is when my wife and I went, we'll be married. We just 35 years, the 25th of this month. So when we were in our 20s and we were going to get a trust set up, what? Okay. And you sit down and you go through the consultation, you see, here's what this is. And then we took out this policy in our late 20s, not realizing how significant that would be when we wake up and we're in our 60s, So again, encourage people to, hey, talk now, get started now, because especially as you can, highlight that those policies, you have to see the value, the surrender value. The death benefit's there if you die the next week, but the surrender value, the future policy has to seed and build up. But all right, Ann, take it away.
So overall advice for seniors.
So here's the biggest thing that I'm seeing with seniors, and the biggest concern that I have is scams. Scams are happening. People are being taken advantage of. I'll give you an example. I have a client who confessed this to me. He was asleep in bed one night, had his cell phone on next to his nightstand for some reason, and it rang in the middle of the night, and he answers it. And the person on the other line says, I'm your grandson so-and-so, and I'm in Europe, and I'm
in jail.
I need you to bail me out. I need your credit card. And because his grandson actually was in Europe, he went and got his wallet, got his credit card, gave him all the information. So he gets up in the morning and realizes what he did and calls his son and said, hey, is your son in jail? Well, no, he's not. And so he called and shut down his credit card. But scammers are going after seniors like I have never seen in websites. Mm-hmm. It is all over the place. And so particularly people with dementia. I have a client who passed away last year. He had dementia and he had bought a timeshare. Well, he was trying to sell it and trying to get rid of it. He ended up spending $15,000 on companies that promised to get rid of his timeshare, and he never got rid of it. They never did anything because they didn't pay up front. They're being so sneaky and so strategic that you've really, if you have a senior in your life, a parent that's aging, see if you can't get power of attorney on them, see if you have access to their bills and their bill pay, and make sure that their bills are being paid. See if you can get access to their bank accounts. And here's another example. My dad was in assisted living. He started having dementia, and my brother is looking at his bank account all the time, and he starts seeing dad writing checks for $5,000 and $10,000. So he calls dad and he says, "What's going on with these checks?" And dad says, "Oh, I'm just trying to help people out." His ex-wife was showing up at assisted for money, saying she was broke, and she was get his checkbook out and just write her a check. So my brother had to take over the bank account, which made my dad angry and frustrated because he wanted his independence, but my saved him from losing all of his money. And so people have got to get more open and honest about this and step up and step in when you start seeing problems that could be happening or that might start happening. And the power of attorney is huge. As soon as you're having any sign of dementia, you've got to get someone responsible, get a power of attorney on them to take over their finances completely.
Yeah, absolutely. We were just talking about this today with a group of people, or I was, and talking about the importance of power of attorney. Even if it came down to getting guardianship, if you have to go that route, but get something, because, Social Security, they don't care about power of attorney. They don't recognize that power of attorney. So get it now so that if something happens, because if dementia hits, and Randy and I say this all the time, you talked about it a while ago, this comes up all of a sudden. It's just, okay, now we're in the middle of it. Yesterday we were fine. We're in the middle of this now. And if you don't have power of attorney, then you don't have access to things, and you can't help and step in and take over. And I'll tell you, when I worked in assisted living, we had a couple of people, almost that same kind of scenario. I had a couple that reached out to me a few months back. His mom's not here in Georgia. They live here in Georgia. And his mom was in, I can't remember, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, somewhere up north. And I ended up calling the assisted living myself and just telling them what was going on, because they couldn't get through to anybody. And they had no idea what was going on with their money. They had no idea about anything. Just a bad situation. So the importance of getting that POA. And then I'll tell you, Sherri, we've got a show coming up at the end of this month that I'm really looking forward to. We have Sergeant Mules with the Warner Robins Police Department is going to be on the show doing cyber safety for seniors. So he's done education at a couple of the assisted livings around this area. And he's going to come on and talk about some of that with us. So, it's just very important, because the scams are ridiculous that are out there now. They're just crazy that's out there. So, all right. So this is, I'm going to tell y'all, this is my favorite thing for Sherri to talk about. And I know it's crazy, but years ago, when I told y'all at the first of the show that I met Sherri, 20 years ago or so. And she did a family night for me. And I still have here at my house this life book. And now it's online, but I have the hard copy that Sherri put together. And it just, to me, is the perfect thing to have. So tell us about the life book.
So I was prompted to write this book because I was meeting with my clients and going down a checklist of, do you have these things done? And I found that a third of them, their beneficiaries were wrong. I mean, that was one red flag. Most of them didn't have wills, powers of attorney, or any legal documents. They just didn't get around to doing any of this stuff. They didn't realize the importance of it. And so I wrote a book, and I do a seminar on this subject. And I will tell you, it is just extremely important to me. So I'm just going to briefly go through the content. First chapter is your personal information. Your family needs to know, where's your DD-214? Where's your Social Security card? Where do you do your bill pay? All of those personal financial things need to be written down somewhere. And so that's in the first chapter. The second chapter talks about legal. It talks about the importance of a power of attorney and when you need one. It talks about the advanced directives, which I beat that drum all day long. I do not life support. Please let me go if I need to get out of here. And the importance of having your will current and accurate. You do not want the money going to the wrong people. It's just a disaster. So the legal documentation is extremely important. The third is financial. What are you have life insurance policies? Do you have annuities? What kind of policies and accounts do you have? And all of your beneficiaries correct? I could not believe how many people I met with that just hadn't thought about it. And here's the crazy thing. So back before I got into this business, I was in the insurance business. I did group insurance. And so I would go to a company and they would put me at a table so the employees could come over and talk to me. And I would write a lot of disability and life insurance. It was fascinating to me that the young unmarried men would buy life insurance and they all made their mother beneficiary, like 99%. The problem is that life insurance company doesn't send you a letter every year going, hey, do you think you need to change your beneficiary away from being your mom? Have you gotten married? Then nobody does that. You have to look at that. You have to look at all, make sure it's right. Nobody else is going to. And so there's so many opportunities for error. Property is a whole nother thing. I was speaking at a group for widows and widowers about 2 months ago, and I was talking about property titling. And two of the people in the room at this grief support group, two of the people said that when their spouse passed, they found out that their deed was written out tenants in common instead of joint tenants with right of survivorship. Thankfully, they had wills. And so the property passed by the will. But if they hadn't had wills, it could have been a real mess for the whole family of having to pass to other multiple people. So the long-term care, burial, and cremation, I'll talk about that just briefly. So Randy and I just recently prepaid $4,200 for cremation. We went simple cremation, ashes in a box, done. I'm not having a service. I'm not having an obituary. I'm not having any. And so, but it's done. It's in the life book. Our son knows where it is. And something happens to both of us, he knows to call the funeral home and they will come pick us up and they will take care of everything and it won't cost anything. It's already paid for. So the cremation are going up huge because the cost of funerals are going up so much and more people are choosing cremation over a full burial and a funeral. It's a big trend across the country. And so if that's what you want, go ahead and pay for it now. And maybe you can drop the life insurance that you're depending on to pay for that and just whatever you want right now and have it permanently for them.
That's a good idea. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that anyway. I don't know who personally speaking, a lot of people disagree. The whole funeral thing with the dragging it out for 2 or 3 days is just the cremation services are more easier to do.
Well, here's where it really got to me. So Randy's father died years ago on a Friday night. And Saturday morning, we were with her at the funeral home that they had already chosen. But his instructions of what he wanted were in a safe deposit box at the bank. And she put it because the bank was closed. It wasn't open on a Saturday morning. So we spent 3 hours in a funeral home. And I'm not disparaging her, but they had not really talked about what each of them wanted. And so they're writing this massive obituary. We're looking at all these coffins, and the guy is suggesting all these add-ons. Would you like a satin lining? Would you like this monogram? Would you like these gold? Would you like? And she spent twice as much money as an average person would have paid for a funeral because she was under stress and grief, and she didn't know what they had wanted to do. And so she just kept saying yes. And I saw that, and it just upset me.
Yeah.
That was an extra $8,000 she didn't need to spend.
Yeah. Just to go in the ground. I mean, it's just.
I am. Some say that's off or whatever, and they want to be buried. Well, then go ahead and prepay for your funeral and burial. Go ahead and lock it in. Go up on all of it because more people are being cremated. They have these huge facilities that they have to fund. And so just do that and maybe check it out and go see your favorite funeral home just for a fun date night.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I'll tell you, even on the nursing home side, when you're looking at even somebody going in that's going to have to apply for Medicaid, burial policies are going to become huge. So taking care of those kind of things up front. Yeah. just
Absolutely.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
Sherri, is
Yeah.
there anything else you would like to add before we check out of here?
I got one more I'm going to say on the life book. And I've told Sherri
Okay.
this now a couple of times, so she's probably going to laugh at me. But my favorite thing that Sherri said about the life book the first time I heard her talk about it, and it just stuck with me all these years, and it's so simple, but in the life book where it's saying, do you have a safe deposit box? If you do, what bank is it, with? Which bank is that with? And then she said the simplest thing, which was, where is the key? And I thought, oh, crud, people don't think about, but you don't think about that. So where is the key? Where do you keep the key to the safety deposit box? And which bank is it with? And just little things like that people don't think about. And that's what I like about that life book. It really drives you and makes you think about each little thing. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's my 2 cents on the life book, but I do love it. So,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
do a seminar of the life book. It could be 30 minutes, 40, 50 minutes, whatever. If a church or a group out there wants me to come out and speak, I don't charge for that because I love doing it. And it makes a difference. If I can get one person in a room to start taking action on these things, I've made my day.
Yeah.
RetireRelax.com. You can download the life book for free. The pages are there. Check out all the special reports. Can I afford to retire? There's a lot of stuff out there for people that costs absolutely nothing. And we have offices in Macon and Warner Robins, and you can listen to our radio show on Saturday mornings on AM 940 from 9 to 10. So anyways, just use us. I mean, we're a resource. Take advantage of it. We don't even track people that come to our website. So it's not like we're going to hunt you down and try to get you to come in for an completely anonymous.
Yeah. Well, Sherri, I want to thank you so much for coming and joining Ann and myself on the show and talking about your services. I know a lot of the topics that we speak on are not fun topics. A lot of people don't want to talk about getting older and having to face retirement. Do I have the money and all that stuff? But regardless of it, is a harsh reality of life. So greatly appreciate you coming on here and taking the time with Ann and myself. And it's really good to see you and Randy after all these years. It's really, really, really neat. So again, Randy and Sherri have their Saturday morning radio show on AM 940 from 9 to 10. So go check that out. If anyone wants to get in touch with Sherri, there is her website and the number for that. And of course, here is the information for Ann and myself. We are CareQuest Solutions. We do help families navigate the difficult and challenging decisions of getting in-home care for your loved ones or getting placed into assisted living or memory care. We do that at no charge to the families. We just love on you and help reduce your fears and guide you to that place. And so with that said, I want to thank everybody for watching the show. Please subscribe, please share. There's a lot of people out there that could use all this information that Ann and I are always putting out. So with that said, we will check everybody on the next show.
Sherri, thank you. We appreciate it. It's great seeing you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.